Hello, I'm Aila Boyd, and I'm on the board of OutChristian. I'm talking to you today because May 17th is International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. We constantly hear the words homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia thrown around. We say that a person or that a specific action is homophobic. But what does the root word phobia actually mean? Merriam-Webster describes phobia as an exaggerated fear of, or an intolerance or aversion for. The former has always stood out to me. An exaggerated fear of what? Gay people? Trans people? Bisexual people? Based on the definition, people who are homophobic are expressing an exaggerated fear. But why would anyone fear coming into contact with someone who is gay, trans, or bi? We do not pose a threat. All we want is to live authentic lives without having to face discrimination or violence. As a trans woman, I know firsthand what it's like to combat transphobia. Luckily, I've only had to endure microaggressions, such as the use of incorrect pronouns, the use of my dead name, and questions at the beginning of my transition about why I felt the need to dress so femininely in public. Although those instances of transphobia were fairly small scale, they undermined my identity. If they had occurred in public, I could have been placed in significant danger. To my benefit, once I corrected the people with my correct pronouns, my correct name, and explained that I was dressing femininely because I identified as female, they simply nodded their heads and said that they understood. But that isn't always the case in the transgender community, especially for people of color who confront violence on a daily basis because of their gender identity. The Human Rights Campaign reported that at least 22 transgender individuals were murdered last year. The number is likely higher. The report found that systemic discrimination is one of the leading factors that contributes to the murder of transgender and gender nonconforming individuals. Now let's go back to the word phobia for a minute. Because the fear is exaggerated, the best way to combat homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia is through education. You would be surprised at how many people I meet tell me that I'm the first out trans person they've ever met. Before they meet me, the only real idea they have of what it means to be trans is through media representations, many of which are harmful. Although I wouldn't want to speak for any of the people who have met me, I would hope that they found that I'm pretty normal, whatever that might mean. Unlike media depictions, my trans identity isn't the most important aspect of my life. It's one of many. In addition to being trans, I'm also a sister, a Christian, an educator, and a journalist. It's my firm belief that if more people who hold transphobic views actually met transgender individuals, they would come to realize that there's nothing to be afraid of. Trans people have the same needs, hopes, and desires as any cisgender person out there. Although we might have been assigned a different sex at birth than the gender that we currently live, that doesn't make us any less human. Today, all of us at OutChristian want to urge you to think about the ways, whether they be intentional or unintentional, that you might be displaying homophobic, transphobic, or biphobic actions. We also want to urge you to take a stand against such actions. If you see someone intentionally using the wrong pronouns for someone, politely remind them that it isn't nice to undermine someone's identity. It takes a lot of courage to live as one's authentic self. Please join us in taking a stand.